The second quote first, just quickly. So the names of the first four tribes, the Torah tells us as follows. Second quote. And Leah became pregnant. Rueven. She called her first son Rueven, Ki Omra, for she said, Ki Ra Hashem ba'ani. God saw my affliction because she wasn't the favorite wife to Yaakov. It was Rachel. And now I have a child. And now, my husband will love me because I have born him a child. So the word Rueven, the root is saw. God saw my affliction, blessed me with a child, God will now love me. Then next pasuk. And she became pregnant again and gave birth to a son. And now she says, God heard that I was hated. And he's given me compensation, this child as well. Shimon, and she called him Shimon, which means to hear. Then she became pregnant again, and she gave birth, and she gave birth to a son. She said, now that I've given birth to 3 children, and there were 4 wives, they knew they're going to be 12 tribes. So now she's fulfilled they assumed that each wife is going to have 3 children. 4 times 3. So now she says, Ata pam yilove ishe elai. Now my husband will join with me. I fulfilled my quota. I've given birth to him. I've given birth to 3 sons. Levi, she called him Levi. So Levi means to join. Now Vatar Oid. She becomes pregnant again, Ben, and she gives birth to a child. And she says, now I owe great thanks to God because I've given birth to a 4th child, more than the assumed quota. And she's full of thanks and gratitude. Yehudah. Therefore, she called the name Yehudah, which means thanks. And at this point, she stops giving birth. So Rueven is called because God saw. Shimon is called because God heard. Levi is called because now she will join with her husband. And Yehudah, she's offering thanks to God. So their names reflect the whole context of their birth. Now look at the top quote. That was in last week's Parshat. Now this week. So Yaakov calls his children, gather around, and I'll tell you what's going to happen to the end of days. Gather around and listen, the children of Yaakov, listen I'm just saying, reading the English, to your Israel, your father. Rueven, you're my firstborn, my first power, in which I'm invested in the greatest way, being a firstborn. Then he chastises him that you're impetuous, and brings up what he had done, and without repeating the story, that Rueven moved the bed of his mother into Yaakov's tent, unbidden. That's what he says to Rueven. Shimon and Levi bless us together, and he's also critical of them because of what they did in the story of Dinah and Shechem. And finally, Yehudah, which I want to get to, should be there on the page. You don't have it. Yeah, the bottom. Click on it. Click on it, you get to the bottom. Yehudah, your brothers will thank you, they'll acknowledge you. Simply meaning they'll acknowledge you as the leader. The Jewish kings descend from him. Your hand will be in the neck of your enemy, and your brothers will bow down to you. Okay, now with this background, we're going to explain all of this in the light of Chassidus. So this is based on a maimah of the Alter Rebbe and our Rebbe's explanations. And that is as follows. So the final passage we looked at is Yehudah ata yiduchachecha. You, your brothers will acknowledge. Explains the Alter Rebbe that Yehudah is a very deep level of the soul, a very deep level of connection to Hashem. What stirs it? What brings it out? Your brothers, Rueven, Shimon, and Levi. As we will now explain, Rueven, Shimon, and Levi are three stages, three states of experience, three modes of service of Hashem. In that order, Rueven, Shimon, and Levi, which in the end unlock the level of Yehudah, which is the deepest core level of the soul. And that is as follows. We're about to daven, my friends, if you haven't davened yet. And the main part of davening, the core, the heart of davening is the Shema, which is the Shema, and the Amidah. Now, the Shema itself has primarily two parts. The first paragraph and the second paragraph. And the third paragraph is related to the Exodus. It's a mitzvah to mention the Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. Hence, there's also a third paragraph. But it's a pretty different theme, basically, than the first two, which is general about allegiance to Hashem. General paragraphs of loving God and serving Him and so on. So again, we have the first parsha of the Shema, the second parsha of the Shema, and then there's a section which begins Emes v'Yatziv, true and established, and that leads then, that's the third section, and that then leads to the Amidah, the Shemoneh Esrei. We're going to see that the Amidah is the deepest level of connection that you can have with God as a result of revealing His deepest level of devotion that comes from the deepest level of the soul. And that's embodied in the level of Yehudah. What does Yehudah mean? Yehudah means to give thanks. Giving thanks is an act of humility, acknowledgement. The deepest level of the soul is egoless. The deepest level of the soul is embodied by the level Yehudah. Now, paradoxically, he's the king and the leader, which incidentally tells us that the only way to be a true leader is to be totally egoless. There's no room at all for any personal agenda. Such a king is at his core disqualified. It's quite the paradox because the king has all the power, and that's the point. To have and rule and have such power over others, so that can be the most abusive thing or the most edifying, life-affirming relationship. And the only way true leadership can work is if it's rooted in absolute self-negation. That's the true Jewish king. And that's Yehudah. So Yehudah means thanks, because thanks means I owe it to you, not me. Thank you means what I have, whatever the situation is because of you, not me. True thanks is complete and absolute surrender and acknowledgement that it's a gift from you. Everything is a gift from Hashem. Everything. So at the core of our relationship, the deepest expression of our relationship is the acknowledgement of that embodied by the level Yehudah. Now, we're all called Yehudim. We're all called Yehudim. Why? He's only one of the 12 tribes. So historically, we're called Yehudim because the 10 tribes, the northern 10 tribes, were all conquered by the king of Assyria and taken off into exile and disappeared. The southern 2 tribes were who? Yehudah and Binyamin. Who was the bigger one? Yehudah. We're all descendants of the southern 2 tribes, of which the dominant tribe is Yehudah. Therefore, we're called Judea or Jews. And that section of Israel is called Judea. The northern section is called Shomron or Samaria. And the southern section, they were all conquered and again disappeared, the last 10 tribes. So the southern tribes are Yehudah and Binyamin, and Yehudah is the dominant tribes. That's what we're called Jews. That's the origin of the name Jews. But the deeper level meaning is we're going to see that every Jew at the core has this level of Yehudah, this complete surrender to God. It's at the core, the essence of the soul. It's called the Pintaliyid, that spark, that eternal flame. It's ever present. The question is it revealed or not? And that's our whole mission, is to reveal the core of our souls in every moment of our lives. And how is this done? This is the meaning of the verse. Yehudah says Yaakov to him, Ato yiducha achecha, your quality, which is the property of every Jew, which is why he's the leader of all the Jews, because he embodies this property that every Jew has from the greatest to the smallest. Yehudah Ato yiducha achecha, what brings out what stirs level by level this sacrifice, it's self-sacrifice to be Jewish, it's Rueven, Shimon, and Levi. To be sure, my friends, this level can come out without these three processes of Rueven, Shimon, and Levi, like our boys in Gaza. It's pure Yehudah, surrender, sacrifice. And their wives. I was just watching a clip that Nussi may have saw it. I forgot this guy next to us. He does incredible work. He's a whole room there, 25 women, many of them pregnant, young mothers whose husbands died, were killed in Gaza. You're going to watch it, friends, you have a box of tissues. And then another clip that someone just sent me late last night of you have to see this. She speaks in English, she's American, I think. Her husband was killed, mother of 6 children. You have to, she's talking. Yeah, my friends, I've never seen it. I've not seen such a thing. This is the raw level of the soul essence, the Yehudah, Yechidah, the soul essence. And so I'm telling you that this can be revealed. Circumstances we're threatened as Jews. I'm ready to die in a moment. I'm here. I'm going. But for it to be sustained, for you and I, is a process. We need to, level by level, dig to unlock this level of Yehudah. And that process is Rueven, Shimon, and Levi. I'll come back to, we'll appreciate the level of Yehudah is further in our conclusion. So let's begin our journey now. What's Rueven, Shimon, and Levi? So Rueven is the first Parshat of the Shema, I'll just tell you. Shimon is the second Parshat of the Shema, and Levi is Emes VaYetchi, and Yehudah is the Amidah. What's the Amidah? A Jew stands in absolute surrender to God, so much so he can't speak. How does the Amidah begin? Hashem, you open my lips and my mouth will relate your praises. I can't relate your praises. Shemon embodies a Jew stands there silent, standing with his head bowed, speaking in a whispered undertone. That's the essence of the neshama revealed there, completely nullified, surrendered, egoless, one with God in the inner chamber with Hashem. What leads the worshiper? What leads the Jew there? Is the first Parsha of the Shema, the second Parsha, and then Levi. Metaphorically, closer and closer to this deeper and deeper and deepest essential intimacy, oneness, union. So what is the first? So what's the Rueven? So we said, Leah said, why'd she call him Rueven? God saw my affliction. He gave me this child. And now my husband will love me. So Rueven means to see. So the first level in the service of, actually there are many levels before this, as we come to the Shema, but these are the main levels. They're all preparatory. Sukkah de Zimbra, the meditations that are required before. But we're giving you the bottom line. What is Rueven? Rueven is a Jew who has to open his eyes and see. What's he seeing? He's seeing Hashem's divine providence in every aspect of his life. That's the first thing. Open your eyes. And if you open your eyes and you see how God's directing things and that I'm not in control, and not only is God directing things, but if you don't see it today, you see tomorrow, it's for the good, then this leads to what? A love of Hashem. You see the gifts that you're given, and you can see clearly how they come directly from Hashem if our eyes are open. All we do is at best make the vessel, and sometimes the vessel that we make, Hashem says, it's not that it's going to be. It's going to be another vessel that you didn't even make, that fell into your lap. So that's seeing godliness in everyday life, included in this category, just looking at the world and seeing its incredible beauty, complexity, integration, the divine intelligence. This is an endless meditation. To see the handiwork of God, how beautiful it all is. Splendorous and awesome and delicate and fearsome, awesome. So this leads to a love of God. This is the first parsha of the Shema, VaYechi. We shall love. He understands. His eyes are open. You know, when you see something, friends, no one can convince you otherwise. The law is that someone who saw an event can't serve as a judge. A witness can't be a judge, because if he saw the event, he's not open to hearing any other interpretation other than he saw. A judge is to be someone who was not present, and hears the two sides. Of course, if there are witnesses who say they saw it one way or another, then and the witnesses are interrogated and found to be true, then it'll be decided according to their testimony. But the judge has to make a decision based on what others see. Why? Because when you see something, you can't be convinced otherwise. So this is a level of which is possible for all of us, that the truth of Hashem and Creator is so real that you see it like you see a physical thing. And that's the first parsha of the Shema, VaYechi. What's the second parsha of the Shema? The second parsha of the Shema is a higher level. What can be higher than seeing God in everything? So first we have to understand that hearing is not the same as seeing. As I just said before, if you see something, you can't be convinced otherwise, no matter what someone tells you. You saw it. But if you heard about something, so you believe him, makes sense, but then someone comes and tells you with an argument that wasn't this way, it was the other way, and that can refute what you have accepted, because you weren't witness to it, you heard it. Seeing is distant. When you hearing is distant. You're not there, you're hearing about something. Seeing means that you're present. It's close to you. What happens when you see something, friends? Your eyes open, and what is just impressions itself upon you. You don't have to work at seeing. There's no work involved in seeing. It's like a camera. Your eye is a very sophisticated camera that no camera in the world could ever duplicate. There's a new camera coming out now about trying to automatically focus like the eye does. I just read it somewhere. But why is it that the mountain is over there, and you click the camera and the image is here? Because light travels, it's in this world, and the image of the whatever you're looking at is impressioned without effort on the brain or the camera. But when you hear about something, friends, it's distant, and you're hearing it word by word, one word, and you're building the idea in your head. We all see the same way, but we don't listen the same way. Because when you're listening, you're interpreting as I'm talking. Your language, words, they're all just sounds. They all need to be interpreted to make meaning. So you're hearing about something, it's vastly different than seeing it. It's distant, it's coming to you word by word, and you're constructing it in your head. Shimon means to hear. So this is a Jew who's not seeing godliness, he's hearing about godliness. I just told you it's a higher level, but you could be thinking, no, it's a lower level. The higher level is Rueven, he sees Hashem. Shimon hears about God, so God's distant. So the answer is that Shimon is a higher level. Why? Because Shimon is a level where a Jew is meditating on the transcendent infinite, which we cannot see, hidden truth of the divine. Rueven is meditating where you can see Hashem in everyday life, in nature, and again, the gifts of life, and divine providence, Hashgacha Pratis. It's tangible. But what are we meditating? As God is interacting with nature and expressing himself in nature. and experiences that can be seen and described. This happened, that happened. Look at the beauty, you're describing it. It's tangible. That's why we call it sight. But Shimon is the next level of Jewish the meditator. God's beyond creator. Hashem is infinite, beyond description. And that's fundamentally, by definition, distant. It's distant. We can't see, we can't describe, we can't relate. We're not talking about God's wisdom, descriptive properties, God's love, God's kindness. We're talking God's infinite revelation, beyond creator. Beyond creator. That's, by definition, distant. Now, here's the thing. That engenders not a love, but an awe. Because you can only love that which is tangible, which you relate to in your own world. Your parnasa, your children, the beauty, the gifts of life that you're enjoying. So you love the giver of it. And you see that he's the one that's giving it all. So the first part of the Shema is VaYechi, you shall love. Because what is he meditating on? He's meditating on God's involvement in his life descriptively and experientially. The second part of the Shema is a recognition that God's beyond creator and also present. He's not far away. He is present, but he's beyond grasp. And that engenders awe. Now, what the second parsha of the Shema speaks about also is it's a warning, which you don't get in the first parsha. Hishomru lachem, be careful lest your heart seduce you, penifte levavchem, and you will stray from the commandments. So I'm asking now a question. If it's a higher level, we have to get a warning. There's no warning in the first parsha. It's all beautiful. Love God, your Lord, teach your children, and mezuzahs, and tefillin. No warning. The second parsha of the Shema, which is it's another parsha in the Torah, Parshas Ekev. It's a higher level, and yet there's a warning there. Don't go astray. Why is a warning needed? Answer. Because the Yetzer Hara is very, very clever. And he tells the Yid, Hashem is infinite, beyond, you're insignificant, and purely nothing. The whole world is nothing. Hashem is beyond creator. Does it really make a difference if you do the mitzvah you want? He exploits. It's our exploits. He doesn't say there's no God. He's saying God's so great, he goes that he's beyond. That's what the Yetzer Hara will tell you. So that's why the second parsha of the Shema, Yishomru lachem. As a Jew meditates on this profound, the insignificance of everything, complete awe of God, the infinite, beyond creator, friends. God is not a creator. You've heard me say many times, maybe you haven't. What do I mean by that? A creator, an artist, if he's going to express himself or produce art. That's what he does. He's hardwired to produce art. If he's a thinking person, express himself, he'll express ideas. Hashem is not hardwired in any way. He's not the divine artist, producer, creator. He decided he's going to create, but he is totally beyond that. And that's the second parsha of the Shema. Shemaya, here we're only hearing about this because infinite's beyond our world. We have finite, limited human creatures. So this engenders an awe of God. But at the same time, the verse has to warn us, don't therefore conclude that you're insignificant. You make no difference. No, God has chosen that you are everything. And your life matters. That's the second parsha of the Shema. Friends, these are all stages to unlock Yehudah. Yehudah is, I am Jewish in the deepest way, beyond all descriptions we'll see. But now we're up to Levi. In summary, Rueven is the first parsha of the Shema, love of God. Shimon, that's seeing. Shimon is hearing about the divine, relating to levels you can only hear but not see. That's the second parsha of the Shema, awe of God. Then comes Levi. Levi's emes v'yatziv. That's how it begins, true and established. What's this a reference to? This is a reference to Torah. In fact, the tribe of Levi were the ones that carried the ark. They carried the Torah when the Jews journeyed in the desert. The Leviim, the Kohanim. The Kohanim are a branch of the Leviim. They were the scholars. Historically, in Egypt, the tribe of Levi was not subject to slavery. Pharaoh allowed them. He did it deliberately. He didn't want to oppress the Jews entirely, and that would foment rebellion. So he allowed, some of them to have it easier. That was Levim. What were they doing? They were inspiring the people and teaching them Torah. So this we'll have to leave for next week, because Levi, in a way, is a fusion of the first two, of Rueven and Shimon. And where are we going with all of this? I keep on saying next week. All of this is to unlock the level of Yehudah. Well, let's just conclude that, because that's Yehudah is the essential Jew. I am Jewish. It's the level of the soul that is part of Hashem. It's beyond relationship, beyond love, beyond awe, beyond Torah study, which is the fusion of both. It's I am. It's the deepest, deepest level. As I said at the outset, we're seeing this in Israel today. Circumstances have compelled it. I am Jewish and ready to give up my life happily for my people. But for you and I, and God willing for them, in times of peace, for the level of Yehudah to be revealed, it requires the service of love of God and awe of God and Torah study, which is embodied by Levi, which, God willing, we will, I guess, revisit. No, we won't. I'm going to Australia on Sunday, God willing. So Friday morning is going to be already Shabbos, so we'll resume in 3 weeks. Okay, we learned something today. We didn't wrap everything up. I hope we gained from what we learned.